Have you ever met someone whose discipline is just so consistent, so relentless that it's almost unsettling? Well, today we're going to dive into an ancient Zen system that's designed to create exactly that kind of frightening consistency. Look, this isn't about your typical motivation hacks. This is about a fundamental rewiring of who you are. The system comes from Zen monks in Japan. It's called Gyoji. And honestly, once you understand how it works, you might never break a promise to yourself again. So, what is Goji? It's not just a cool-sounding word for habit. It literally means a practice that powers itself, one that just keeps going without a single break. But to unlock it, we first have to understand the real enemy here, our own predictable cycle of failure. To make this real, let's talk about a programmer named Raphael. Super successful in his career, but like so many of us, he had one big problem. He just couldn't stick to anything. I mean, does this list look a little too familiar to anyone else? The gym, meditation, reading. He'd start off with all this energy and then just hit a wall. He tried all the usual tricks, apps, reward systems, accountability partners, but nothing ever worked. And here's why. He was literally fighting against the architecture of his own brain. And this, right here, this is the anatomy of that failure loop. Monday, he feels like a superhero, totally motivated. But by Wednesday, that little voice starts whispering, maybe just skip today. By Friday, it's over. Complete surrender. And then Sunday is just full of empty promises about how great next week is going to be. It's a brutal cycle of self-sabotage. Raphael's breakthrough came when he stumbled on this secret from Zen monks, a principle that just shuts down that internal negotiation for good. And it's not about more willpower. It's something way deeper. Okay, so check this out. It turns out your brain basically has two different boxes for commitments. The first box is for reversible commitments. The private promises you make to yourself. Your brain loves to negotiate those. But the second box, that's for irreversible commitments. These are public declarations about who you are. They don't get debated. They just happen. You literally switch from saying, I'll try to stating a fact. I am. And this isn't just some nice idea. There's hard science behind it. Think about it. For our ancestors, survival depended on their status in the tribe. Public failure, getting kicked out, could literally be a death sentence. Your brain is still running that ancient software. So when you make a vow public, failing suddenly feels way more painful than just doing the work. So what did Raphael do? He stopped making those weak, private promises. He wrote down this incredibly specific vow, signed it, and then posted it on social media for the whole world to see. He wasn't trying to meditate anymore. He was declaring that he is a meditator. But okay, social pressure is one thing. You still have to wake up every morning and fight your own biology. And that's where he brought in the second part of the Gyoji system, building an engine of repetition so powerful that it removes the need for daily decisions. And this engine, it rests on two super simple but absolutely non-negotiable pillars. First, you set a fixed time. That totally eliminates the when should I do it debate. Second, you standardize the practice. That kills the what should I do debate. Raphael picked 5 a.m. not because he's some super motivated morning person, but because at 5 a.m. the world is asleep. There were no texts, no emails, no excuses. The time wasn't about being productive, it was about the total elimination of every possible reason to fail. And then he locked down the what with robotic precision. 20 push-ups, 10 minutes of meditation, 10 minutes of reading, same order, same stuff, every single day. In this system, you got to understand, variety is the enemy, choice is the enemy. Every decision you have to make is just a tiny crack where your old habits can leak back in. And here's the good news. There's a finish line for the hard part. Researchers have found that it takes on average about 66 days for a behavior to become truly automatic. The goal isn't to have endless willpower. It's to use repetition until willpower isn't even necessary anymore. But what happens when life gets messy? You get sick, you have to travel, unexpected problems pop up. This is the exact moment where almost everyone else gives up. Why? Because perfect conditions just don't exist in the real world. This analogy is everything. That all-or-nothing mindset is a total trap. You think, well, I can't do my full hour at the gym, so I'll just do nothing. Guoji teaches that practice needs continuity, not perfection. Even a tiny trickle of water keeps the river alive. A complete stop? Well, then it's just a memory. So, what did Raphael do? On day 40, he had to travel for work. No gym, his schedule was a mess, so you know what he did? He did push-ups in the airport bathroom. Was it a great workout? Of course not. But that wasn't the point. The point was to maintain the momentum. He kept the river flowing. He honored the practice without a gap. And this brings us to the final brilliant piece of the system, pre-solutions. Research shows that making decisions ahead of time completely removes decision fatigue when a crisis hits. So Raphael literally listed every possible thing that could go wrong and created an automatic if-then plan. When X happens, I will do Y. No debate, just execution. So, after 90 days, Raphael finished his challenge. But something much, much deeper had changed. He wasn't just a guy who had built some new habits. He had become a fundamentally different person. And you can see the mental shift right here. He went from a state of constant resistance and negotiation running purely on willpower to a state of automaticity and flow. The practice was no longer something he did, it was just part of who he was. And that's when other people really started to notice. His coworkers, his friends, they started calling him obsessive, scary, not normal. Let me tell you, when you start hearing those words, that's how you know you're on the right track. Your level of discipline makes people uncomfortable because it proves their own excuses are just choices. Ultimately, the Gyoji system isn't a habit-building tool, it's an identity-shaping weapon. It's designed to transform you from someone who is always trying to be consistent into someone who simply is. Look, this level of transformation isn't just about discipline. It's about the death of your old, inconsistent, unreliable self and the birth of someone who is truly unbreakable. So the only question that's left is, are you ready for that?